So you just finished Haga Basin South and you're not exactly sure what to do next? Hi, I'm David and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll cover many mid-game tips to help you have a smooth experience. While the mid-game is the most enjoyable part of this game, there's definitely a lot of things that you can do to help you have a smoother process. And this video is definitely not the fastest way to progress to endgame, so if you're looking for that, then you might want to look for another video. So after you get done with Haga Basin South, some of you might be wondering how to cross the desert without getting eaten. Well, I have a video explaining exactly how to do that, but in short terms, all you have to do is come to the Anvil outpost, and right north of that, you see this flat part on the desert. That's exactly where you want to go. Just make sure there's no worms already popped up. But if you just gun it through and get to these rocks, then you should be okay. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is base location, because that is very key for the mid game to help you reliably get the materials you need without having to go too far for everything. There will be a few things you have to go far for, but kind of do those in big chunk runs. So where should we set up our base and how do we get there? Once you start unlocking more of the map, make sure you always have a survey probe on you so you can just easily see the map. So once you're done with Haga Basin South, the one thing you need to know is iron is in any of the Vermilius gaps. So the eastern or western Vermilius gap is where you're going to find iron, and that's a pretty big mid-game material, but there's also more mid-game materials, so we're going to want to position ourselves in a really good spot to be able to get multiple materials. The best place I found is on the western Vermilius gap, the very northern end. If you make a base near any of this zone right here, then you're going to be set for iron. And also the next material after iron is steel, and to make that you need carbon. So if you look right here on the map, this place right here has a lot of carbon, and this place right here has a lot of iron. You're also going to need a bunch of complex machinery, so it's really good to post up at one of these two places. In this area right here, or make a house in this area. That is my main recommendation for a mid-game base. And the easiest way to get here is once you cross the gap, you can follow along a couple paths. One is just go left and hug all these rocks all the way up and around, and don't be afraid of these things. They're just drums. If you drive over them, it might summon a worm a lot faster, but they're pretty small gaps. You just kind of hug all the way around, and then you're over here. This is a big mountain, so going down the hill is easy. Going back up, a little more dangerous. So now that we have our base location set up and picked out, the next thing you should know is you want to unlock planetologist. And not only that, planetologist tier 2. That is greatly going to increase our yield from cut arrays and from vehicle cut arrays. And also a lot of other perks like extra charge, extra battery, and just yields for everything. More yields means less time going and getting these resources yourself. So how exactly do we do that? The first planetologist is in Haga Basin South, so you should unlock him before you go find a base. And you can actually unlock the second one also before you do this. So if you look on Haga Basin South and you zoom in, it's to the right of the anvil, right in this Imperial testing station. On the very top of the mountain, there's a planetologist Derek. Talk to him. You go inside of this Imperial testing station. He's going to have you grab something. It's towards the end. It's inside of a hidden bookshelf, so just look for a glowing book in a bookshelf. You interact with it, open it, and then you go inside. You grab the item, and then you head back up and talk to Derek, and that will unlock you Planetologist 1. To get number 2 is also pretty easy. You need to come up here, the Western Vermilius Gap, and there's a Imperial Testing Station 197. There's going to be a NPC you talk to there. We'll have you do the same thing. You go in, find some stuff for him, come back, talk to him, and I believe you have to go all the way back and talk to Derek, and that should unlock Planetologist 2. And for early game, that is insanely strong, so I would highly recommend doing that before you go and start gathering a lot of resources. And to unlock Planetologist 3 and the extra perks on top, there's a very long quest line. It's a wee bit confusing. I had to do a lot of Googling for it, but I wouldn't recommend doing that until you have an ornithopter. So now you have Planetologist 2 and you have your base. First thing I would do is start farming a bunch of materials, upgrading your cut arrays, farming more materials. You want to get steel. And the first thing you should really be focusing on building is a buggy with a storage and a cut array, because that is just going to also increase your yield by a ton, like so much so that it's completely worth it. And on the topic of that, you can actually find buggies out in the world if you go to a lot of the NPC strongholds. As you can see on my mini map right here, there's a buggy here that I claimed. There's just a bunch of random ones at these places. Once in a while you'll come across it and you can claim it and you can disassemble it. It's going to be halfway broken, but at least you'll have a buggy. And then you only need to build a few pieces for it, so you can get a cut array, which is pretty important because there's a few areas on the map, like these chrome facilities. They're pretty important. A lot of the materials in there you're going to need. But yeah, you should be pushing for a buggy as fast as possible, just for more gathering resources and yields. Now, once you have your buggy and a cut array, you can just start farming some resources. And also you want to upgrade just the cut array portion of the buggy. You can take off your old Mark III cut array and slap on a Mark IV cut array, and that's going to allow you to get aluminum, which is very important because that's how we're going to build our ornithopter. That's kind of the main thing, is getting to a point where you can build an ornithopter, because it's going to make traveling just immensely easier. You're not going to be able to gather as much resources if you fly around on it getting resources, but at the same time, it's just night and day difference on doing things in the game. And I wouldn't recommend doing all the quest line until you have an ornithopter. You can progress a lot of the main story quests and some of the faction quests, but I wouldn't recommend doing too much of that until you get an ornithopter. It's going to make your life way easier. And since your base is centralized right here, as soon as you do get that new cut array on your buggy and you can get aluminum, you can go up one of the routes to the right or to the left, and there's just a plethora of aluminum, and you can gather that, bring it back to your base, and everything's within this central region. So as long as you're set up around here, the only resource that you won't have quick access to is the resources you get from these chrome facilities, which once you have an ornithopter, it's way easy to go and just fly in there. And then once you get your ornithopter, pretty much done with the mid game. There's still a little bit more you can do. You can go down to the bottom left and farm some of the crystals, which give you dare aluminum, and then you can fly out of the map and do a lot of your questing. There's a lot of quests you can do outside the map, so pretty simple and straightforward. You're just pushing for a base, a buggy, ornithopter, and enjoy it while you're doing it. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot to explore, and once you unlock the ornithopter, the quest lines are pretty good. If you actually follow some of the quest lines and the stories, they're actually really good and enjoyable. But yeah, if you don't mind riding around on a little sand bike everywhere, then by all means go for it. The map's pretty big and it takes a long time to get around like that. So like I said, this isn't the fastest guide, but this should help your experience go a lot smoother. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.